So, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Headstrong podcast. I'm super excited today because we are tapping into a different area. So you guys know I have all different types of guests on, whether they be pro athletes, entrepreneurs, business owners. But today we have somebody who is a rock star in the sales industry. He's a sales expert. He's a host of Muffins with Morgan, and he's been named a 2-time sales leader by LinkedIn. So I want to welcome Morgan Ingram. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're super excited to have you. So for those that may not be too familiar with you and your work, can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. So I originally wanted to be a sports agent. And so, you got former athletes on here. That's what I wanted to go do. I saw the movie Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money. And then I was like, that's it. Like, I'm going to go be a sports agent. Like, it just makes a lot of sense. So I went to the University of Georgia and I double majored in finance and sports management. And I was locked in to go be a sports agent. However, senior year, they were like, yeah, you got to go to law school. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not going to law school. That's a lot of money. And that's not me. So then I had to refocus and be like, what do I want to do? So I ended up starting a company in college, senior year. And what I did is I hosted video game tournaments on college campuses. So I was hosting video game tournaments on the UGA's campus. We also did some stuff in Kennesaw, and we just grew the organization. We had different type of sponsors that were local businesses that helped us. But as you all know, having a team of college kids, that didn't go that far as you think it would. So not a lot of people really wanted to do it moving forward. So after college, I had to make a decision, like, what did I want to do? Because I had done that company for about 3 months after college. And then I was like, okay, what's the next step? So what I ended up doing is I went to a local network event in Atlanta. And I was talking to the guy about public speaking because that's something I had been doing to high schools and colleges and things of that nature, like after I was done with this stint with my company. And he was like, you should go look at this SaaS company. So SaaS stands for Software as a Service, for those of you who may not understand that acronym there. And he was like, they just got funding, $7 million in funding. And I was like, that's a good amount of money. I should probably go check that out. So I ended up cold calling the VP of sales. And that's how I ended up getting the interview for a sales development rep position. And what that role means is that I'm prospecting into cold accounts. My only job is to prospect and build pipeline for the organization so that the sellers, which were called account executives, can close. And so that was my first role out of college, like first real job. And I never wanted to go in sales at all, but I felt like I could learn a lot there to go do whatever I wanted to do moving forward, or maybe go back and start another company again. And I started to fall in love with the process of prospecting. And the first 3 months I sucked. I was not good at all. So that was really difficult. But everything shifted from my mindset when my VP of sales had a conversation and she said, hey, like, what's going on with you right now? Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, honestly, like, I'm not really doing this role the way I think I should be, but also at the same time, I feel like I want to go do something else. And she ended up asking me like, hey, like, are you giving this role 100%? And I was like, no. Like, I was giving it like 70%. No, you guys have probably all been out there. When you know you're not giving 100%, yet you're still complaining. That was really me. I knew if I give it 100% that I could tell really not if I liked it or not. And that's my advice to everyone as I go into the final bits of the story here is that really ask yourself, are you giving this 100%, like mentally, physically, everything? Like, because you can walk away and be like, I gave it my all and it wasn't for me. And you feel way better about that. So that's what I did. I gave it my all and I realized that I was good at it once I like took it seriously and I started getting better and better. Then I created my YouTube channel, which is the Muffins Morgan is the offspin of that, right? So the SDR Chronicles is what I started and it documented my journey as an SDR. So I put it on LinkedIn. It got a lot of traction, and then I got promoted to a manager. So I was managing 13 reps at that time. And then I got approached by a sales trainer named John Barrows. He's trained Mike, like all the big companies, like the Microsofts, the Googles, the Salesforce, any big company you think of, he's trained those companies. And he approached me and he's like, hey, do you want to join my team? And so we had multiple conversations that ended up joining his team. And so now for the past 3 years, I've been a sales coach, sales trainer for fast growing software companies. Like anyone's out there, you could think of the Slacks, the Googles, the Salesforces. Those are the type of companies that I train. And I've been doing that to help them build their pipeline. And that's my whole story. And that brings us here today.
Wow. No, I love kind of hearing the background. The one thing I love about what you said, well, there was a couple things, but I love that you like proactively cold called like the VP of the company to try to get in there. Like that, did you always have like that courageous confidence? Because, you know, most people would be like, oh, let me just submit a resume, but you like went after the top of the food chain there, and you got a great result because of that. I'm sure that they looked at you differently by your approach.
Well, yes. And you could probably attest to this. Like, I just like doing things that no one else is doing. Mm-hmm. You have to, because then I'm going to be lumped with everyone else. And also, like, no one really looks at resumes. Like, no one's like, let me look at these 1,000 resumes today. Like, no one's doing that. So and also that came from something. So I'm going to go back a little bit to college, and I didn't mention this, but I sought out informational interviews. So Danny, I don't know if you do the same thing, but I will go find someone that I have no business to talk to and ask for like 15, 20 minutes of their time. And so in college, that was the biggest unique advantage I had, because I was in college. So like I could be like, hey, I like some advice here, and I'm just in college. You want to help? So I remember talking to the general manager at Fox Sports South. I remember talking to the VP of sales in the NBA. I remember talking to the general manager over here at the College Football Hall of Fame. I remember, and this is one that I still to this day, I have no idea why he responded to me. I reached out to the owner of Atlanta Hawks, and we had a 30-minute conversation. Bruce Levinson, that's my guy. Like, but the thing is, like, I was confident and comfortable in that situation because I had already been talking to executives. It's something I was already doing. So me cold calling a VP of sales really didn't bother me. I was just like, yeah, I don't want to fill out a resume. I'd rather just call this person and be like, yo, this is who I am. I didn't say yo on the cold call, but like, hey, this is who I am. Like, this is what I'm all about. And like, let's have a conversation. And the reason that it was so successful is because my mindset was, I have what my mentor calls humble confidence, which is I'm very confident in what I can do, but I'm not going to be egotistical about it in any way. So I know the actions I need to take, and I know I can do it. I just have to execute. And really it's up to me. But I know my mindset, like if I get in front of these people and I have a conversation, I know I can hold my own because I've been able to do that in the past.
Okay. To kind of piggyback off of what you're saying there, did you always have this kind of humble confidence about yourself? Or do you think that your upbringing attributed it? Was a mentor, a coach? Was there what got you this type of confidence? Because a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah. So originally I didn't have the confidence. I didn't. We're going to talk about how I got there. From a ethics and humble standpoint, it was all my parents. Like I grew up in a Christian home. I went to church every single weekend, and just the way that they raised us was always to be gracious to people, always to be grateful, always to be humble in everything that you're doing, and be appreciative of what you have. And that is what I grew up on. So that's the way that I just go about it. I don't like people who feel they're entitled to things, especially when you haven't done anything at all. Like those people are the worst. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, you've done nothing yet. But the thing is, like, that is where my mentor comes into play. And I've had a lot throughout my career. And one of them said two things that were important, which was one is that they said, don't ever think you've arrived because you never will arrive. Mm. Because think about it, right? Like when you get to 100,000 followers, you're like, I got to 1 million. When you get to 1 million, like I got 10 million. I can get 100 million, right? You make $1 million, you're like, I can get 5 million. I can get 25 million, right? You get on a show, you're like, I need to get on this other show, right? And so you're always chasing something. So it's just to get a step back and be like, if you never believe that you've arrived, then you always will put in the work, and you always will be humble in the fact that you're still getting to that next step. But inevitably, you know that there is no final step. There's just building upon a legacy that you have. And then obviously when it's over, it's over. But you can't be like, all right, when I do this, it's going to be a wrap, because it won't. And that's what I learned there. And that definitely changed the way that I thought about a lot of stuff. And then the second thing was that my mentor said that readers are leaders. So I've read a lot of books and I've taken a lot of insights in to help mold my mind, because it's not about just working out, and that's important, right? But it's also about working your brain out. Like, what are you reading? What are you consuming? And I don't watch the news. Like, if something bad's happening, my parents tell me, like, and they're like, yo, this was happening, cool. But like, I just focus on books, YouTube, podcasts. I enrich my mind because it helps me come up with new ideas, and ultimately it helps me be confident in my approach and what I'm looking to do.
No, I really like that. I love that you talk about self-development, books being really important to you. I was going to ask you later, like, what would you say is like the book you're reading right now, or like a favorite that you have? I'm sure you have hundreds since you've been consuming
I have a
books.
Lot. What's your favorite? What's your favorite
book? Like overall favorite book?
Overall favorite book.
The book that impacted my life the most is The Power of Now.
It's a really good one.
Yeah. As an athlete, that one kind of shifted everything for me, because it was all about being in the moment, focusing on the present. 100%. We're so consumed with the past and the future. So like for my life, that's the biggest one. So what about you?
Have you, well, I'm going to answer that, but I have a follow-up question. Have you read Stillness? Stillness is Key.
No.
So I picked that one up. Ryan Holiday, Stillness is Key. It's got a lot of athletes in there that talk about how when you truly are great at what you do, and I played basketball in high school, that everything becomes still and it becomes slow motion. And obviously you're moving at a rapid pace, but it's like slow motion for you. And, you know, rest in peace. They talk about Kobe Bryant, and he talks about how he has that stillness when he plays. It's like everything is going in slow motion for him, even though he's going fast. And even when you watch Jordan, it looks like everyone's like going in like microseconds, and he's just blowing by people. And he talks about that stillness too. So that's just one thing I wanted to add for everybody. But my favorite book, and the same thing for you that impacted my life, was The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. So most of you all know probably Think and Grow Rich. It's the go-to like entrepreneur book. But there's a book that's before it that I believe is better. It's called The Law of Success. And it's his book before Think and Grow Rich. And it's fantastic. And that really changed everything about my mindset and changed everything about the way I go about life. Because when I read that book, I was like, I'm definitely doing these things wrong. And also I'm missing out components that I can grow on. And so that was one key. And you asked what book I'm reading now. I'm reading Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet David. So for all of you out there that are business owners, or you're looking to do some type of side hustle too, this is a fantastic book, because it gives you formulas and different processes to be confident, right? Because confidence also comes from the results that we get. So the more results that you get, the more confident you're going to be, right? So it talks about that as well.
No, I think that those are some great ones. We'll definitely link those in the episodes so everybody can check those out. I want to talk about a time that things were not going so good for you, though, because I'm sure that this roller coaster didn't just always go up. You did have some downs, right? So can you tell us about a really challenging time that maybe you went through, and kind of how you overcame that? Because people want to know about the journey.
Yeah, everything's been a rainbow, right? That's not real. So the hardest time for me was right after the time that I graduated college and I knew that the company wasn't going to be something I could do long term. And the reason that was really hard for me is because I took my graduation money to fund it, continuously moving forward, because I was like, I'm just going to take this money and like we're going to build it big. Like I went all in, and through the pitches into the team, there's certain things that I just didn't do very well. Like I felt like as a leader at that time, I felt like I had to be involved in everything. And again, granted, I was like 21, like 22, right? So like I wanted to be involved in everything. And that knowing what I know now, that was not a good mindset. And also as well, like I was going through a really rough patch because I was trying to find my identity and what I wanted to do. And so I started creating Facebook videos that were motivational and talking about books I was reading. Now, again, mind everybody like here, I just had graduated college and I'm creating content and putting it out there. And so at that time, like what, 6-7 years ago, like the people who only created content were people who were like had something to really share, but I had just graduated college. So
or sell.
Yeah, like I just was like out here and I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. No real agenda besides like, I feel like I can get big by just making videos. And so I got a lot of hate from it. Like a lot of my friends in college were like, you're not going to make it. People were making fun of me behind my back. And I had people that were my like 2 close friends to this day, you know, shout out to Will and Donovan out there. Like they were the only people that supported me. Everyone else was making fun of me. Everyone else was telling me I wasn't going to make it. My parents had no idea what I was doing. My brothers were making fun of me at that time. And I was alone. And I wasn't making a lot of money. I was living at my parents' house. And it was really hard. And I didn't really know what direction to go into. But I just knew that I had to create this content because I knew one day by me honing in this skill, it would allow me to do great things. And that's the only thing that I knew. And that's the only thing that the spirit was telling me, intuition, universe, whatever you all want to call it, but spirit for me, like I just felt like I had to learn that skill. But it was tough because every single person was coming against me. I wasn't making any money at all. And at the same time, I was trying to get my public speaking career off at the time during that gap between when I started my sales career. And every single high school in Georgia rejected me. And I offered my services for free. So imagine like I'm offering it for free and people still don't want you. And it's just like, man, like it just sucked. Like it was an incredibly tough time for me because I didn't have anyone to talk to. It was just like me in my own headspace, which I'm grateful for now because during this quarantine that everyone was in, like, I was like, okay, I've done this before. like, here we go again. And like, for me, I was comfortable in it. So like, I wasn't freaking out like everyone else, but that was an incredibly difficult time for me because I just felt like it was just me against everyone else during that time.
But you didn't say, how did you overcome it though? Because we know you came out of it.
Well, you came out of it. So I gave you guys what happened, right? But then everyone's like, okay, so like, how'd you get out of it? So for me, what ended up happening is that I started to put myself out there in public speaking circuit. So how I got out of it was that I started speaking in front of people. Like I finally got some opportunities. And it was through, at the time, I don't know if you even use this, Periscope. I don't know if you remember Periscope. Like, I love Periscope. So I got out of it because once I started using Periscope, I started to get real supporters. But they were like they weren't from Atlanta. It was like, they were like in London. They were like in New York. They were like in California. And I was like, wow, okay, people really appreciate what I'm saying here. And for like the 5-6 months, I just seen nothing. And it was really, really tough. But then, and at some points I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, right? You have that point where it's like, what's even the point of this right now? Like no one is supporting me, but I did Periscope. I got a lot of support there. And then I just started getting a lot of confidence. And then from Periscope, I got offered to speak at an event in Atlanta with 20 people. And then after that event, 2 people approached me to go do other speaking events. And then it created this snowball effect, right? I started speaking and then everyone wanted to talk. And then once people saw pictures of me speaking in front of audiences, then when people are like, oh, Morgan, like I've been supporting you the whole time. And it's like, no, you weren't. Get out of here. But the thing is that like I overcame it because I knew if I kept pushing through, it was going to happen. But ultimately, the way I really overcame it was through positive affirmations. Like I just started writing down like what I was going to do. And I just looked at it every morning, like, all right, this is what I'm going to become, like, no matter what.
Wow. So you said a lot there that I'm like super excited about.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Oh my gosh. For one, you were ahead of the game because you were creating content and putting content out there before that was like a thing. I mean, it was a thing like you said, but not like it is now. And I just want to commend you for being brave, being courageous to do that. And you experienced the fact that your friends and family were like not supportive, which is what a lot of people experience. And that kind of causes them to quit or to give up. And I think it's really cool that once you got on Periscope and people could hear you that weren't actually, you didn't even know these people, then they actually loved what you're doing, which is always isn't it the funniest that like the people you think are going to support you the most are the ones that are like, why are you doing that? And then now they're trying to be like, oh, how can I be a part of what you got going on? Like, it's like, crazy.
Nah, it's too late. Like, it is crazy. It is crazy though. Absolutely.
Another thing that I like about what you just talked about is that by putting yourself out there, you got the opportunities. And something that I really preach and talk about is creating content and putting yourself out there, because people just think like, well, I'm scared, or they're like, you have to go through the legwork, and you went through that period of time where you're doing that consistently. And that's like what ended up building up, you know, the muscle to make you that much better. But the number one thing you said that just blew me away, and that's what I really want to hone in on, is your affirmations, because that is something that we talk about a lot on this podcast, and the power of writing something down, the power of putting something into the universe. You know, can you talk a little bit more about, is this something that you do still to this day, and how it's impacted your life?
100%. If I don't write my affirmations in the morning, I feel weird. Like, there was a morning that I didn't write it because I just like woke up later, and like I was halfway at the day, like at 12 or 1, and it was like on a Saturday, and I was like, something's off. And I was like, yep, I didn't write my affirmation. Like, that's what's happened to me now. So this is a key element, because a lot of people are like, this is hocus pocus. So for those people out there that are like me, that need like stats and like logically like finance minded like I am, I looked it up. So if you write down your goals, you have a 40% chance of more success if you write it down, of accomplishing the goal. If you don't, then, you know, obviously you have a less than 40% chance, right? So the thing is, like, I started writing this down because I watched a video by Mel Robbins. And one thing she talks about is being in the direct mode. So our mind or our actions more so indirect. We just go throughout our day, whatever. We hope things are good. If they're not, then whatever. But when you put your mind in the direct mode, then that's when you start accomplishing more. And this also goes back to what you talked about, confidence, right? I've psyched myself up now to be ultimately confident in what I'm doing. Like, I am going to do this, and I'm very relaxed. So when COVID first hit, March, right? We had a meeting, and there's like 8 of us on the team. We had a meeting, we adjusted the numbers, we adjusted quota, and our CEO called each and every single one of us to make sure we're okay. He called me and he's like, Morgan, how are you? I was like, dude, I'm good. He's like, wait, you're good right now? I was like, yeah, man, I'm good. Like, I'm all good. And the thing is, that's not to say this to show face on this podcast. That's legitimately how the conversation went. And the reason it went that way is because I write my affirmations down every single day. And if I know I write them down and I take action, I know I have double, triple, quadruple the chance of me accomplishing that goal, because I've written it down. And now I'm holding myself accountable to do this, because we don't like to let people down. And I'm already going to take the action anyways, right? So subconsciously, right, we have to tap into the subconscious to get us in the conscious of taking those actions. And if I have both of those working for me, I'm in a really great spot. So yes, I do it every single morning. It fundamentally changed the way I approach my day, and it makes me way more confident in what I want to do as well. Now, the last thing I will add is this isn't just a pass to just write things down and it will happen. You have to take action and you have to execute, all right? This isn't just like you write things down and then they magically happen. You do have to take the action there, but if you do both, you will see more success.
No, that's really powerful, because I know for me, my daily routine is I got to say my gratitude, write that out. I write out my affirmations. Yep. And I kind of go about my day. And it's just awesome when you hear somebody else who's done that and has achieved a lot of success. So, I'm on the right path. And listeners that are on here, keep doing that, because it really does work. Like you said, 40% of a better chance of it happening. So
an additional tip here too, and I don't know if you do it this way, is I write them in a certain way.
Talk about that.
So when I write them as if they've already happened. Right? So I say, I am happy and grateful that. I write it down as if I've already experienced it. So subconsciously, my body's like, oh, this already happened. So we're just going to do it again. So now you're not as nervous. You don't have as much anxiety about it. So that's a really just quick tip there. I write down, like, for example, I might say, I'm happy and grateful that I closed this big deal today. Or I'm happy and grateful that I closed these 3 people on the call that led to next steps. Right? I'm happy and grateful that I got this interview to this job, right? So you write it down as if it's already happened. So then it triggers that motion and action in your body. So that's an additional tip I'll add there.
No, that's definitely a really, really good tip, because a lot of times when I talk to people about affirmations or mantras and things, they always talk about these big goals and dreams that they have, but they're not doing, like you said, envisioning it as it already happened. So that's a really, really good tip.
Yep.
I want to segue a little bit over more to sales, because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners on this podcast who've maybe been considering a job in sales, thinking about sales, or they maybe are in sales right now and they are struggling. So what is like 3 things that you recommend somebody do who is either currently in sales and struggling or is considering getting into sales?
Okay, so there's 3 things. There's a lot.
I knew there was a lot, but I said 3.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot, right? But you said 3, so I got you. Number 1, this one's really big. And some of you are going to think this is small, yet this is massive. Is get next steps on every single call that you're on. Schedule next steps. Like, I'll give you an example. Like when you all run like a discovery call or a qualification call, you're looking to get in sales or you are in sales. You know that you run on a discovery call, right? Qualification, like, should we talk moving forward? Now, what ends up happening is most people will do that call. And then, for example, as we're here, right? Danielle may say, yeah, like follow up with me next week. And then I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll follow up with you next week. Danielle will most likely not get back to me. She's going to get busy. She's going to forget the conversation. And now I'm going to become annoying and you're not going to get anywhere. So to save yourself, to close more deals, once I'm on the phone with somebody and they say that they're interested or I've run a good discovery for the most part, I don't let people off the hook. I say, cool. Hey, it's Wednesday. Let's schedule a call on Friday and follow up on what the resources I gave you. Because I want to hold you accountable to you saying that you were interested, or again, I saw some interest, or whatever, how the conversation went, or whatever you're selling. Like, I want to always get next steps. Like, that's number 1. Like, if you do that 1 tip right there, that will help you close a lot of deals. And I'll give you an additional story on this. So I was talking to an organization about sales training. There was 3 other people that they were looking at. We had our first call and we had a follow-up call the next week. So I get up on the follow-up call. I always ask at the beginning of the call, what changed between our conversations? Because 5 days, a lot can change, especially today. I always ask, like, hey, anything's changed? Like, is everything still that we talked about the same, right? And she said, yeah, nothing's really changed. However, we decided we wanted to go with you. And I was like, okay, sounds great. And this is tip number 2 is going to be talk about why I actually didn't get excited there. But okay, cool. Sounds great. Like, I'm just curious, like, what made the decision? Like, what was your decision making in picking me? And they said, well, Morgan, you were the only sales trainer that got next steps on the call. The other sales trainers didn't get next steps on the call. And that's one of the reasons why they went with me, because I was doing the sales, right? Obviously, that I would train them on. So the thing at the end of the day is make sure you get next steps in everything that you do. If you just let the next steps just go by the wayside, then you yourself will go by the wayside and your deal will go by the wayside. Number 2, this is a key one, is I am way more emotional about my process than the outcomes. So let me talk about that. So an outcome, when someone says, I want to move forward, people get fired up. They're like, yes, that's awesome. And you get fired up. The thing is, I don't get fired up until it's signed. Like, until something is signed, I don't get fired up. I am extremely calm. I'm like, oh, you want to move forward? I'm like, okay, cool. Sounds great. And then I ask further questions. What would prevent this from happening? You want to move forward? It's like, would finance stop this? Would legal stop this? you want to move forward, but is the budget there? Like, where are we getting it from? Like, I ask more questions because I'm suspect always until it's signed, right? But here's the thing. I'm emotional about my process because I immediately go in process mode, not outcome mode. Outcome mode is like, oh, cool, you want to move forward? All right, cool, I'll send over the contract. And I'm not asking the questions that could prevent this from happening. Because when you follow up, and then like nothing happens, you're like, maybe I should ask more questions. And this is just me getting burned a multitude of times. So now when someone says, hey, I want to move forward, and they want to talk about next steps, I ask all these questions. All right, what happens if this doesn't get made? Like, how long is legal going to take? What's the procurement process? Like, I'm asking these follow-up questions because I need to know how long this is going to take, because I might need to have another conversation that is hidden that we needed to uncover. So be emotional about your process and your skills than the outcomes. Because if you focus on being great at the skills and asking the right questions and doing the right calls and doing the right emails, then your outcomes will be there. That's a good one. And number 3 is leverage video. So this one, but this one is key. So I've been yelling this one about a lot, but it's incredibly important right now because everyone is at home. Not a lot of people are going anywhere. I know there's only like 15 to 20 countries we can go to right now, so I'm not going anywhere. So
there's that many? I thought we could only go to Mexico right now.
It's all like the islands. But the thing is, like, there's special criteria to go there. Yeah, so it really is like 3. but we can't really go to that many places here in the States, right? And if you're in other countries, you all have your different criteria, but we're not going anywhere. And the thing is that because you can't go anywhere, that means there's not as many face-to-face events. You're not doing in-person meetings. So how are you going to show your personality and show that you're human in your sales cycle? It's video. Video to prospect. I use video in my sales cycles. I use videos to go over proposals. I use video a lot to make sure that people see me. And telling you all, like, video has helped me out a lot during this time to close deals and continuously be able to hit quota attainment, and also as well to revive deals. So there's a lot of deals right now. If you guys go look back, I did it earlier this week and I sent out some videos. People have gone dark on you because of COVID. COVID, see you later. Now is the time to go use video to talk to those people. And in my inbox, just before I got on this, like, I got people reply back to my video saying, like, let's talk, right? Because I sent them a video. If I did something different, maybe they would have replied, but video I know has a higher chance of me replying at the end of the day if someone sent me one. And also I know if I send them one, they're going to get that too. So those would be my 3 things for people in sales, coming into sales. If you focus on those 3 things, you'll be successful.
Those are some really, really good points. Want to talk a little bit about the video piece, because I was going to ask you something about LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn with sales. Because me personally, as somebody with a decent following on LinkedIn like yourself, we are getting blown up every day by people who are doing the copy paste template method. And I want to talk to you about that, because is that something that their companies are telling them to do? Because I swear I have like hundreds of people who literally send me a copy paste template. I don't respond. Then they keep sending it in different formats over and over and over and over again. And that's why I loved when you said video, because and I was actually watching one of your videos before our talk, and you talked about the power of the voice message, but like doing things that are different because everybody's doing the same thing. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm laughing because there's 2 types of groups right now that are like going crazy: Forex and franchisers. I don't know who has trained these 2 type of groups, but they're going crazy right now, especially the franchisers. I don't know where they've come from, but I came back from vacation. I had 40 of like the 1,000 messages that I had were like all franchisers, like franchise. I'm like, I don't need a franchise. I have no idea what's going on. So that's jokes there. But what you need to do, right, in terms of video is follow this formula, right? So I just tell people to do like 10, 30, 10. I tell people that the first 10 seconds of your video should state a reason of why you're reaching out to that person. Like, what are you reaching out for? Is it something you found on the website? Is it something that is about their buyer persona? Like 10 seconds is stating the reason and getting someone to pay attention to you, right? Because if you just make a video, and this is the problem, right? You can't just make a video and say, hey, Danielle, this is a video. What's up? You're going to be like, okay. Like, even though it's a video, you're still not saying anything. So don't let the video trick you to being like, oh, just because I make videos, people are going to pay attention more. You still got to make sure you're saying something that makes sense. That's a huge miss for a lot of people there. So once I've got my 10 seconds, then I do my 30 seconds, which essentially is my value prop. And your value prop is essentially elevator pitch. So think about it in the same way. And then the last 10 seconds is a call to action. And normally what I tell people to do here is to have a collaborative call to action, is what we like to call it. And all I'm doing, instead of asking for time, I ask people if they have interest. So would you be open to learning more? Are you curious to take a deeper dive? I'm seeing if you do have some type of interest to collaborate with me and have a conversation. Because if not, that's completely fine. But I want to make sure that I am sending you some type of video to show, hey, this is what I'm about. But I make sure to keep it very short. So if you notice, I said 10, 30, 10. So you want to keep your videos around 45 to normally 60 seconds when you do them.
Yeah, definitely great tips there, because I'm not seeing enough people doing that. So like the fact you're even giving that tip is a huge tip to even start doing video messages when you're reaching out to different prospects and just in general, because you're on LinkedIn like me, and there's a lot of networking opportunities on LinkedIn as well. And so many people don't even know how to approach that correctly, that even by doing something like you just recommended can really impact them to getting some great potential mentors or networking opportunities or collaborations, which is everybody's like, hey, do you want to set up a call? Because we can see how we both are going to benefit each other.
Yeah.
Just like right. Like, let me look at your page. Okay.
Nah, it's not going to work. I mean, it takes an extra effort to stand out, but it's really comes down to who wants to take that extra effort.
100%. You have to put it in and make it cater to that person and unique. You know, making everything generic is just not going to give you the results that you want there. But I know, like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I didn't really cut you off there because, like, I wanted to answer the original question you talked about, like, why do people do that?
Oh yeah, please.
So the reason that people do it is because at some point it worked. At some point it worked for them. I don't know how or who. That's what we need to go find. But it's worked. They've gotten a response. They've gotten some type of meeting, or they're being held to some type of metric, or at the same time, they probably have some automation in the background. So people rather just automate than like taking the time to do these things that if you create a system and a formula, it doesn't take you that long to do if you know how to organize your time. But that's a whole nother issue in itself, is time management organization, which most people don't have.
That's a great point, because what I can think of is maybe they're sending out a blast to 1,000 people, and if 5 of them respond, they think it's working, even though those numbers are terrible.
Terrible. That's like a 0.00005% response rate. That's awful.
Yeah, just a little bit of focused effort in a different way can get you a way better result there. But I know a lot of our listeners are very excited about you being on here and want to know like how they can connect with you, how they can work with you, and also like what do you have coming up? Like what is something that we need to be on edge about?
On edge. All right. So if you want to follow me on Instagram at Morgan J. Ingram. That's the best place to connect with me. And then what should they be excited for? So I just launched this last week. It's called muffinswithmorgan.com. So it's a landing page that we had just come up with. So we are starting to do like landing pages, and it's you just go on the website there and you can fill out your information, and we're going to start doing more stuff with Muffins with Morgan. So to give you guys context on what that is, like on LinkedIn, every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do a live show. And people could come on and ask questions. Normally they're sales-related questions. If you want to ask me non-sales-related questions, you can. That people have done that. It's completely fine. But we're looking to like do different things with it moving forward. So stay tuned for that. And that's all I got on that.
Okay, cool. Can I just ask a couple more things about Muffins with Morgan?
Yeah, let's do it.
Name. How do we get the name, and what does it mean?
So
it's sketchy.
So it's so random. So I had muffins from Costco, if you guys shop at Costco, and they had these huge muffins. And I like muffins. And so on a Monday, I was eating the muffins and I was like, yo, like there's like Taco Tuesday. Why don't I just do like Muffin Monday on my Instagram story? Like, let's just see how it works. So like I turned on some like Travis Scott or something, and like I just ate the muffin and it was like jamming. And like people were commenting, being like, yo, this is like the highlight of my Monday. Like this is the highlight of my week. And I was like me eating a muffin and me rapping, this is the highlight of your Monday? So I just kept going with it and I just called it Muffin Monday, and people like loved it on Instagram. So then I was like, all right, let me just like it's like a live show. And then I just called it Muffins with Morgan. And then like it became a thing. So that's how it came to be. It's so ridiculous. Awesome. It's so ridiculous.
No, that's really cool, because sometimes it's just like the strangest things or the things that catch on. And in my mind, I was trying to put it together. I'm like, Muffins with Morgan. Do muffins have to do with a sales thing? And it's I was trying to put it together, and I'm glad that it ended up being not like that at all.
It's so random and so ridiculous, which is, I guess, the beauty of it.
No, that's awesome. So if people want to connect with you, they connect with you on Twitter. Is that the best place if somebody wants to reach out, maybe wants to work with you, hire you, get you to help them with their company, organization? Same thing? Yeah.
So LinkedIn's the best spot. The reason I told you all not to connect with me on LinkedIn, because for some reason, 30K connection is the limit on LinkedIn, and you can't add more people. So I'm kind of stuck. But if you do want to reach out to me there and email me, I will respond. But that's probably the best way. Just reach out to me there. I mean, I'm very responsive on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the best place to reach out to me if you want to do some type of services or you want to work together.
Perfect. Well, hopefully people that reach out, they do something creative, because they've heard this episode and they know the way to get to you is to be unique, to be different, to showcase a fun thing about them. But Morgan, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your words of wisdom. Before we leave, can you leave our listeners with one last parting word?
Yeah. So the last thing that I'll say here is binge your growth, not Netflix. So I'm not, and again, some of you are going to take this and be like, Morgan, like, why can't I watch Netflix? Like I watch Netflix on the weekends. That's all I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that don't just spend your entire time just watching Netflix and not taking the time to enrich your mind, like we talked about, like reading books, listening to podcasts, YouTube. It only takes like an hour of your day to really enrich yourself. So do that, right? And that's the one thing I would say.
Thank you again. Great parting words. Until next time, hopefully you can come on again, because we love the keys and the gems you've been dropping this entire episode. Thank you so much, Morgan.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.